The cuffs clicked on her wrists before I finished. The sentence phones were already up, neighbors lined along the porch rail like birds on a wire, and Brenda Caldwell watched her clipboard face down in the dirt like a little flag for a country that never existed. I wasn't gloating. I was steady. The way you get when a storm finally moves off the ridge and you can hear your own breath again. If you're wondering how we ended up cuffing the person who swore she could run me off my own cabin, let me back up. I rolled into Bear Creek Valley after lunch, rotors singing a bit at the air smelling like warm pine and old iron. My cedar-sided cabin, right where it's always been. Tucked by the bend in the gravel with the creek talking to stones like an old friend. And before my boots found dust, she was already on my porch. Like she'd grown out of the planks, a blonde bob. HOA polo clipboard, hugged like a shield, and she opened with, "You can't park there. This cabin is part of Pine Hollow Estates. Now you need to leave." My name is Caleb Mercer. I was born in this county, left just long enough to forget, and came back to remember my family's deed on this valley. Runs older than half the road signs. So I told her, calm as a kitchen table talk. "That's funny because I never signed your HOA. Her smile tightened that rehearsed thing people wear when they win. By not listening, she flipped a page and stabbed a line with her pen. $500. Immediate compliance violation. Unauthorized parking. Non-approved exterior. Color non-standard mailbox. Every hour adds 100 we can lien the property." And I took the paper cheap ink on cheaper stock. Snapped a photo and asked the question anyone would ask when somebody shows up at dawn to find a mailbox. "You really came at 6 a.m. on a Sunday for this," she didn't flinch. "Knock when I need to knock. I'm the president. We voted to annex legacy parcels notices were sent. You're in our jurisdiction now and across the lane." Mark and Jenna Porter lifted their phones, the way folks do when a show starts by accident, and I gave them the smallest nod. "If you're filming, don't stop." She handed me a map, county plat, with a Sharpie boundary that bled across fences, and the creek like a drunk snake, tapped her watch, and promised my gate fob would die by noon and my trash would be cut. Which sounds scary until you remember that gate is a county easement, and the trash is contracted to my name. So I said it plain. Mailers don't change title, and she hated that line. You could see it sit wrong in her mouth, but she doubled down. Because performance is a habit. Security is on call. We can do this the easy way, which you know, never means easy for you. I dialed the county records office, put Stacy on speaker Arsel 092 wide Sefive. B. Read. Encumbrances. Keys clicked. Papers rustled, and Stacy read. The only thing that matters. No HOA, no CC, and ours no liens. Walker deed, 1929, consolidated to Mercer. 2004 county road easement through the gate, and the porches quieted except for the creek. Brenda lifted her chin like volume could fix facts. We mailed notice, and Stacy let out the kind of laugh people in county offices earn the hard way. Mailers don't change title if they did. We'd all be married to the pizza coupons. And yeah, that happened. And I let myself smile. Brenda didn't. She dialed a number and used words like non-compliant occupant and refusing lawful orders. And before she hung up, I heard tires on gravel and a black SUV nosed in. Like it owned my dust. Two men stepping out in uniforms that were almost right. Until you really looked, no radios, no nameplates, patches that didn't match any agency around here. Boots too clean for anyone who works outside. "Step away from the porch, sir." The tall one barked. "You're in violation of community statutes. We're detaining you." And Brenda stood behind them with her arms crossed, like a queen watching pieces move. "Told you nobody defies the HOA." I stepped down on hands where everyone could see camera rolling, heart steady, because fear was the plan. And it picked the wrong address. Got close enough to see a thread pulling loose on that patch, close enough to smell plastic. And the line I use, "When I'm done pretending," just came out. "Where'd you rent those party store?" The tall one scowled and reached for cuffs. The short one tried to recite a code from nowhere. The porter's cameras flashed like quarters. Catching sun, and Brenda snapped. "Just cuff him. He doesn't belong here," and I felt 17 again. At a gas station that didn't like outsiders. Felt 25 again. Trying to sign a lease the world thought I couldn't afford. Felt a courtroom once where someone mistook a uniform for permission to talk down, and I let that ache burn quick then. Cool, and I did what facts ask you to do. Into the radio on my belt. Calm as a Sunday prayer. Unit 12 at Bear Creek Valley. 2 impersonators, possible. False reporting cameras rolling. Send a pair, and the answer came back like rain on tin. Copy 2 minutes out. And Brenda rolled her eyes so hard you could hear it. "Nice toy." And the tall one grabbed my wrist and I didn't move. I reached inside my jacket and flipped a leather case and let the truth catch daylight. Here's the twist that changed the whole day. "I'm Sheriff Caleb Mercer," I said. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. "And you two are about 3 seconds from charges for impersonating law enforcement and trying an unlawful detention on private property. Her claim doesn't extend here. It never did." And the short one's mouth dropped. The tall one let go like he'd touched a stove, and Brenda tried a brittle laugh. "You're lying. That badge is fake. Pine Hollow has jurisdiction. You can't do this." And Mark across the lane did us all a favor and said it for the record at Brenda. "We're all filming." I walked to my truck. Slow, never turning my back on men who hadn't decided which way they were going to jump. Pulled a cracked leather folder from behind the seat. Laid out deed survey and a county GIS print. Like scripture written in degrees and chains. Parcel 09277B recorded to me. Pre-existing, no CC and R's County Road. Easement right here. Your HOA stops where the creek turns. That Sharpie map is art, not law. And if you've ever watched pride leak out of a person, you know the look. Patrol lights brushed the pines. Before the siren did, Deputy. Elena Ruiz stepped out. With the kind of quiet you can't fake, clocked my badge. Clocked the costumes. Clocked Brenda with the clipboard. Bleeding confidence, Miss Caldwell. Did you call in a trespass? And Brenda grabbed the rope. Yes, he's refusing HOA orders. And Elena's eyebrow moved a fraction. Aren't law. Let's start with names. And the tall one said, Rick. The short one said, Bobby. No agencies, no radios, nothing that survives. Follow-up questions. You good, Sheriff? Elena asked. And I said, I'm good. And meant everything. Those 2 words can hold. And we played Stacy's earlier call on speaker, so every porch could hear the line where authority ends, and you could feel the neighborhood lean as folks realized how thin Brenda's stage had always been. Elena read the charges like a list you only need to check once impersonation attempted. unlawful detention trespass, and the click of cuffs sounded like the first true thing said all afternoon. A black pickup I recognized from HOA flyers rolled in too fast and chunked to a stop. Out jumped Graham Peters with a red face and a tie too tight for Sunday. "I'm VP of the board," he puffed. "We never approved an annexation." Brenda acted alone. "We didn't know about uniforms. We'll hold an emergency vote to remove her today." And I didn't smile. I don't do victory dances. I slid my papers back into the folder that lives under my seat and let the creek talk to rocks like always. Brenda stood small in cuffs, dust on her shoes. Clipboard face down. The two men looked smaller. Without their costumes, woods down. The lane whispered, "Is she going to jail?" And I gave the line. I wanted on tape the boundary that matters. I didn't fight for this land just to ask permission to live on it. If the story ended there, it would be neat, right? Lesson learned credits roll. But power that dresses up as paperwork rarely retires on a Monday. And the next day, laminated notices appeared on the bulletin by the mailboxes. Clarifications about noise after 6, about shade. Cloth colors, about temporary structures that looked suspiciously like a rule, pointed at my uncle's shed. So I photographed them, labeled the folder, "Insurance," and waited for folks to decide who they wanted to be. Graham called that night. Said the board voted Brenda out and named him interim. Said they were going to reset the tone. Maybe they will. Maybe the next. Brenda is already ironing a polo and practicing her smile in the mirror. You know what I mean, but that evening, the porters brought over a pie. Like the old days, we ate it off the tailgate and laughed at how serious a fake patch can look, until a loose thread starts to peel, and Elena stopped by after highway duty and said the impersonators confessed fast. Once the bracelets went on, it wants to make an example, and Brenda posted online about being victimized by a corrupt system, and a few folks clicked, like a few stayed quiet, and a few who were there just wrote, "Watch the video." I didn't post. I don't need to win the internet. I need my roof to throw rain in the right direction, and my mailbox to hold more letters from people I love than fines from people who don't know me. And yes, I'll sit at the next board meeting in a clean shirt with that folder under my arm, when the minutes are read and the paint swatches make their rounds. I'll speak once if I have to, repeating my parcel number and the line where their power stops polite and firm, because that's what separates law from theater, the courtesy to be right without hating the person who's wrong. So tell me this, because maybe you've lived your own version on your street. When a private board can fine your grass, decide if your kid's hoop is a structure, and talk like they own a road. Your taxes maintain. At what point does community standard turn into a costume people wear to boss their neighbors around? And at what point are folks like me part of the problem for letting it slide until it hits our porch? Yeah, that stings. But say it out loud. If this hit a nerve, drop your take. Was Brenda doing a hard, thankless job, or did she cross the line the second she brought actors to a real fight? Tell me your stories. The fine for a flag, the day someone called you non-compliant. The moment you took your porch back. And if you want more of these real talks, where small rules meet big truths, hit like, share this with the neighbor who needs to hear it, and subscribe. I read the comments for better or worse. And whether you think I'm dead right or dead wrong, I want to hear what you've seen how or should have to answer to witnesses. And today, you're one of them.